Hi, my name is Jude Belanger. I'm with Wilton Drive Voice. Our mission as a 501c3 is to safeguard LGBTQ plus culture in Wilton Manors for future generations. There's a lot of components to what that culture means. I started on the Planning and Zoning Commission in Wilton Manors, and when we started getting new developments and new high-rises in Wilton Manors, I went out to the community to find out on Wilton Drive with the business owners what they felt about this. What I got back was a lot more than I expected. I got back concerns of possible leases going up at these new buildings, forcing out smaller LGBT plus mom and pop shops, more parking issues, just a lot of different concerns. So I'm here with Commissioner Caputo today. He also is a business owner of Peak Fitness, and he's part of our LGBT plus community as a commissioner, but also as a business owner. And we're here to get his perspective on what he thinks LGBT plus Q culture is in Wilton Manors, and what kind of the future holds for us here. So what do you think, Chris?
Sure. So the idea of what LGBTQ cultural history is, it's really expansive. It's not, to me, it's in part some of our traditional historical, whether that's from community, it's the people that have lived there, the things that they have done, the movements that they've been a part of, whether that's fighting for marriage equality or fighting more recently against DeSantis, right, and stuff. So the sort of output of our community, and really it's also, to me, it's about what the current culture is, right? So how we feel as a community, what values we share as a group are, and I think it's different for every unique person. Like, much of what I view of LGBTQ cultural history goes back to things like the AIDS crisis, right? So as someone who was when I first was coming out, we were in the midst of the worst of it, right? And then later I became positive, and sort of I then went through that transition here locally to being a positive person, I should say, and getting support from local nonprofits, right, who had really built some great programming around that and created some safe spaces. So all of that has sort of played in, and all of those things are part of it, but that's just my opinion of it, right? Somebody else could share 10 different things that I don't include. That's what's great about culture, is it's so kind of subjective and expansive.
In Florida, the nonprofits actually carry a lot of the weight to help the community. We're not in California, Massachusetts, where the government has these government programs. So here the nonprofits are really important, and our local nonprofits are supported by our local businesses that really carry the weight of keeping them alive. So we want to make sure that they're preserved and that they're here. So as far as that's concerned, I know you have a great vision for keeping Wilton Manors a healthy and well LGBT plus community. So I think it's been great, your perspective on this, and we'll find out more in the future what's going to happen with all of this.
Yeah.
But what do you think is something coming up for our current situation? What do you think our LGBT plus cultural heritage is currently right now? Not our 40-year history, because Wilton Manors does have a 40-year history of this being a predominantly LGBT plus community. So
yes, I'm going to start by kind of going back to something you said about the business sort of carrying the nonprofit community. They're an essential part of supporting the nonprofits. All the nonprofits that I serve or volunteer with, they are essential. But the truth from all the financials that I've seen is still it's individuals who provide the majority of the financial contribution. It may be an individual who happens to also work in one of those businesces, but they're writing checks as individuals.
Again, as a resident,
whether they're resident Wilton Manors or in our nearby area,
Okay.
right? And again, that isn't to downplay. I know there are many of our the businesses on the drive give hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively, right? So that's super important. But out of respect for the residents and locals, we have to talk about that they are the biggest contributor, and that really ties into your question, because it's like, what's the current state, right? The thing about Wilton Manors is it is the people that are here, that for me are what creates our LGBTQ environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as there are LGBTQ people and they continue to come here and they're here because they love what they find here, that will create a demand for LGBTQ businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the people left, there would be no Hunters or pub or anything like that.
Good point.
So it really, I think it all starts with the people. The other thing that I've said is there's some other beautiful places in the country, like Palm Springs, Provincetown.
Mm-hmm.
Provincetown, I think, is just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And when I compare us to Provincetown, or Palm Springs, many people will say they prefer Wilton Manors. And it's not that they prefer it because it's more beautiful, right? Like, we can be honest, it's very charming, but architecturally, it's not the most unique place in the world, right? They always talk about the people that are here and the community that creates. So that's really, for me, where it's at is having this community which represents the values of LGBTQ people, and we do that by having things that matter to them, like the theater, right? So we have two gay. We're the only city in the world that has two gay theaters that operate year-round, side by side. That there, and those are businesses or nonprofits, right? That's supported by the community and helps keep the community wanting to be here, as an example.
So a big buzzword around town right now is gentrification. That is a big buzzword. We do have what could be considered signs of it. Our Alchemist Cafe area is being reshaped. That was a nice artsy area. Pride Corner, they're going away because they can't afford their lease. So would you consider those signs of gentrification? Would you consider that we may be on the threshold of gentrification? What is your take on gentrification in general? Just your perspective on what you think we're in for.
Yeah, so I think the natural cycle of any market, any real estate market right now in America is the values are still going up, right? Or at worst, staying steady, right?
Yeah.
Some of the transactions we're seeing now, like the Alchemist, that was done while we were still on the rise, and it is heartbreaking. Like, I happen to love the crepe place that's there, and I love the Mexican place. I'm happy to hear the Alchemist is going to be rebuilt in the new one, but it's undeniably tragic that we're losing some businesses that we care about. I can also say, as a business owner, like it hurt when I signed the lease at the dollar amount I signed it at, because it's a lot of money. And I know that the next lease I sign at Wilton Manors is going to be even more. You can't stop that. You can't force, there's no way to force property values down, right?
Yeah.
You can't set a law that says you can't raise the rent. That's against the law here in Florida. This is in New York where we can do those kind of price controls. So, there's a lot of worry about gentrification, and I just sold my house at a really substantial gain, right, to somebody else. I couldn't afford to buy my house that I just sold if I had to do it over again, right? So we are pricing people out of the market. But I think what's really important, the thing that we have to hold underneath it all, is continuing to be a community that provides the programs and services, that has that demonstrates the values, that attracts the people who want to have here, right? Because houses are going to keep going up, right? So they can be bought by somebody that represents our values or by somebody that doesn't. And it's the community that's going to ensure that the person who represents our values wants to buy here versus somebody else.
That sounds to me like it's tied up into the city identity, which I don't particularly, my opinion is it's still a work in progress. What do you feel the city identity is, and what is is it reflected in their marketing plan?
So I, as a city, I think perhaps you're viewing it very as in this is a municipality and what does the municipality do? But I view Wilton Manors not as just a city, but as a community. And I often call it the greater Wilton Manors area, jokingly, but referring to nearby Oakland Park and other Fort Lauderdale, which are very gay, but they identify as loving Wilton Manors, right?
Yes.
So I think whenever we talk about Wilton Manors, to me it is the community. It's not just this is the exact borders of the city, and therefore this is who we represent. I think the city, as a city, it's important that we're always open and respectful of everybody, right? We can't have reverse discrimination. That's it would be against the law. It's not fair to residents. It's not something I would support, right?
Well, we can be straight friendly.
So I think that. So here's the thing: is I think that we're friendly to all residents, right? And this is me wearing my city hat, not my personal hat. We have to be friendly to all residents. We would want it to be friendly for us when we got here. But I think that, again, the things the city does, like right now we're doing the public arts and culture policy. So we're coming up with a policy. That policy is going to reflect the people that live here, which is at the moment predominantly gay and lesbian, and I think it will continue to remain that way, if not get more so.
Yeah.
So with the fact that we're one of the few cities in the area and county that is investing in an arts and culture policy, that describes who we are as a people, right? So I think the city putting its money there, that's a sign.
I think there are like 32 cities in Broward County or something. And
yeah.
14 of them are doing this?
No. There's I think we're the third.
Oh, the third.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll actually have
a
formal public arts policy.
Okay, good.
And a plan for that. So that investment in there, I think again it shows who we are. The fact that when we close down the drive, which is a big deal, it requires significant investment, state resources, county resources, all of that. The fact that we're funding those things, like the fact that we were providing sponsorship for Stonewall, the city has said clearly we support the LGBTQ community. It just hasn't said that at the expense of not supporting any other community.
That makes sense. So just to reflect back to you what you had said, and somewhat pulling out metrics for what you see the success of the community, or metrics to find out if it's declining. Your perspective on this is if Wilton Manors continues to attract the right residents that support our LGBT plus culture, and the city can create programs like the art culture program and possibly other programs, that for you these would be the metrics or the standards in order to not prepare, but just I guess even prepare, but at least enhance the fact that gentrification may not be able to be stopped, but at least we can keep our culture growing within it.
That's right. I think like the particularly most accurate part of what you just stated is that it's keeping our culture growing within the gentrification that's going to occur anyways, right? We can't stop that from happening. So it's ensuring that we're attracting the right resident that is similar to the residents we have here today, that we love, our neighbors, regardless of sexual orientation.
That's great. And thank you for your perspective as a business owner first, and then a commissioner. I know you're
and also as a gay man, right? Because I chose to move here. I moved here because it was a gay mecca to me, and I'd never been any place like it. And there's no place else except maybe Provincetown in Palm Springs in the U.S. that I feel as comfortable being who I am as here. So that hat's always there too, and I want to be clear that's why I moved here, and so it's my vision that everyone else following my footsteps can have the same experience.
Future generations, part of the mission of Wilton Drive Voice, to make sure that our future generations can experience what we experience now. So
it's huge for us.
Very great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate talking with you today.
Thanks for all the work you're doing. It helps out a lot.
Keep going with your commission work. You're doing a great job.